and our local communities assumed our power, our right, and our obligation to make the world a better place. I think it's safe to say that we would inhabit a more caring, responsible, and sustainable community and world. And so we're going to take a look at what's possible. But the word better, make the world a better place, where does that begin? I'm going to suggest that it begins with good. I say that we have the power to do good, immense good, every day. But I'd like for you to get a feel for that. And so I'm going to ask you to participate with me in a short activity. Will you do that with me? Yes. Okay, we're going to have to do a little bit of gymnastics because these tables are not made for people to stand up. So I'm going to ask you to take off everything you have on your table and put it onto your chair. And lift the table in a vertical position, and that will allow you to stand up. This short experience will be to illustrate something about good. And we'll need to use our memory and our imagination. First, our memory. Everyone, please think of someone that you care about, someone that you haven't seen for a long time, and that you would like to see. It's going to be a different person for everybody, so think just for a second. Someone you haven't, could be a friend, a family member, someone you haven't seen for a long time. Now hold that person in your mind. And the second is imagination. Now imagine that you're walking down the street and you run into them. How will you greet them? With hugs and enthusiasm? So your challenge is to look to your left and to your right and hug the people around you with that same enthusiasm. Was that good? That's a little taste of good. From my perspective, I saw a wave of good feeling washing over the whole room. And so I would say that you changed the world in this room in those moments. Do you feel like you changed the world? Well, you certainly changed it for me because you made my TED Talk better. So thanks a lot. And we can sit down now. So why am I here? In truth, I am always and only invited to speak because one day I got on a borrowed bicycle and started rescuing food to share with my neighbors and myself. In early 2011, I built 2 homemade baskets and put them on a bicycle donated by my friend Antonio Shinoka, who would like to remain anonymous. And I began collecting excess food from 30 restaurants in a 7-block area near my home in central Lisbon. It's called Our Lady of Fatima. It's a neighborhood. And that was the beginning of the ReFood movement. I was rescuing about 1,000 meals a month, feeding 50 or so people, 5 days a week. But why, you might ask, did I do that? The world financial crisis had settled into Portugal and disrupted my income. So I had to think about what I'm going to do for my next career, a thing I've done many times. But this time, as I thought about it, I happened to walk past a mirror, and I noticed that the person in the mirror was an older person. I was 59 years old at that time. Of course, I'm younger than that now. But the fact that I was so old made me think, maybe I don't have so many more careers to develop. And so it started a reflection about what I had done in the past, what I had done in my professional life. And I had done some pretty cool stuff. But it was always for me. And something about that didn't sit well. And so I took a decision that this time my career will be for others. And so that was a fundamental moment for me. And it came from a bad thing. The worldwide crisis was bad for a lot of people. Lots of people who need the food that we rescue. Now, the actual idea came into being during a dinner with my daughters, Mayada and Raisa, who would also like to remain anonymous. And the name of the movement was given by my son Christopher, who is also a co-founder with me, and as you might have already guessed, would like to remain anonymous. Good luck with that. So that's a little bit about how ReFood came into existence, a small-town neighborhood project, doing a very simple thing, rescuing food, feeding people, and inviting the community to participate. But what does this small-scale rescue operation have to do with our global challenges, the big picture? What on earth is going on? 1/3 of all food is wasted. It goes to the trash, not to anybody's table. At the same time, 1/8 of humanity lives in food insecurity, not sure where their next meal will come from. That's a fancy way to say they are hungry. This is a gigantic problem, and it's a crying shame. But it is also an opportunity, because we have this food in our hands before we choose to waste it. And if we can change our behavior, we can end food waste and hunger on our planet. We are not interested in going to the other planets just yet. So, local food rescue centers transform excess food into nutrition. This directly addresses the Sustainable Development Goal number 2, stop hunger. But it also affects 1 and 3, which are the fight against poverty and health. You do not have health if you do not have a nutritious diet, a stable and secure nutritious diet. And this work also cuts food waste. And this addresses the 11th and 12th Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, the work promotes peace and justice, because each act of rescue and delivery changes the world for the people who receive it. So these are acts of peace and justice. But we might do well to ask, what does it actually take to end hunger? It's never been done. There must be a reason. What is necessary to end hunger? Food. A perpetual source of high-quality food, available daily, in close proximity to the people who need it, and at no cost to the people who need it, and at a very low cost to those who provide it. Now, this means that governments and businesses cannot do this work. They do not have the budgets, It's a tremendous undertaking. They just can't do it. But food rescue organizations can do it. And why is that? Because every day in every community, there is a perpetual source of high quality food available, close to the people who need it, at no cost to the people who need it, and at very low cost to those who provide it. So local food rescue entities like ReFood can in fact fill in all of these criteria. Local volunteers save enormous amounts of food from going to the trash. They rescue it, and then they need to move it to our operational center. They do that with bicycles, by walking, and by using cars, especially when there's a lot of food. In the operational center, meals are lovingly prepared by other volunteers, and these are young people, President of the Republic, people who care and want to put their hands into the work. Now, the food is delivered to the beneficiary families so that they can take it home and eat at their own table. Extra food is given to other associations who have their beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries have an equal human dignity to all of us. They must be treated with warmth and respect. So this is the ReFood mission, to rescue food, feed people, and to include the entire community. It's an example of local food rescue operations. That was just a glance at the work that can be done. But what would be possible, would it be possible to scale a small-scale neighborhood project into a nationwide movement and then position it to grow globally? Looks like it might be possible. What is a local food rescue center? How do they operate, and how do they replicate? A local food rescue center changes the community. It is a living example of the circular economy in action. People are fed first, then animals, then composting. The idea is that nothing is wasted. Hundreds of volunteers, dozens of food source partners, support partners, and social network partners work together to serve hundreds of beneficiaries. That is what a local food rescue center is. When we have a street party, it's for the beneficiaries too. We do not separate the populations. There's no wall between being a volunteer and being a beneficiary. Sometimes they overlap. And our rule is that we feed first and ask questions later. So when somebody comes to us and says, we need food, they're going to receive food immediately. And then we'll set up an appointment, we'll have an interview, we'll find out what those needs are. Only citizens can replicate ReFood. All other entities in the community, governments, churches, associations, businesses, they can all and should all facilitate the process. But only citizens can start the process, and only citizens can run the process. In each group of people, there is one person or a small group who take the leadership and say, I'm going to do this. They make a decision to change the world in their community. And I've seen this over and over again. When they take this decision, they need to communicate to the community, and they need to invite them. And when they get them all together, we can explain the opportunity and see who wants to be involved. These people are raising their hands. Anybody here want to be a ReFood volunteer? Raise your hand, just like these people. Okay, so we're going to sign you up at the end. About our replication. It is counterintuitive. Anybody who's taken any course in project management knows that you've got to have everything lined up before you start. And ReFood does the opposite. We begin with the goodwill of the people in the community. We do not have a space. We do not have equipment. We do not have the material. We do not know for sure that the community will support us. But we have opened 52 centers in the last 8 years, and only 2 have failed out of 70. 8 are still in course. And that gives us a 97% success rate using a counterintuitive replication methodology. Now, a ReFood center is, a food rescue center. ReFood is specific. Food rescue is general. There are many others that do this work. But a food rescue center is very local, very personal, and not very easy to scale. ReFood might be the exception. Here's a look at 8 years in 40 seconds, with an average of 1 new center opening every 2 months. Starting out with 1,000 meals a month in 1 center, and currently we're rescuing and delivering 150,000 meals a month. So each one of these little markers represent a community of people who have dedicated to this work. Partners, volunteers, beneficiaries, and it does seem to grow quickly, a little bit like mushrooms after a rain, which is a good thing. Now, local food rescue centers can make a combined global impact. Not one center. Many centers can make a combined global impact. In the case of ReFood, we can see how 49 local centers impacted the Sustainable Development Goals in 2018. 2 million meals were rescued and served, directly impacting the second Sustainable Development Goal and supporting the first and third. 6,500 beneficiaries were fed 5, 6, and 7 days a week. 1,000 tons of food waste did not go to pollute our environment. 2,500 partners, food partners and support partners, helped make their communities a better place. 7,000 volunteers generated purpose and meaning in their lives by donating their most precious asset, their time. 2 hours once a week to change the world in their local community. Peace and justice can be built locally, and we have the power to do it. Before closing, I want to pose some questions for your consideration. Let's take one more look at the Sustainable Development Goals. Have you noticed that there are 18 places on the chart, but only 17 goals? I'll challenge you to consider what's missing. Impacting global goals requires scalability. Local food rescue centers can replicate. Why did ReFood replicate so fast? Is it because of the simple, elegant model? 2 community negatives transformed into 3 community positives? Is it because the value produced is enormous and the cost is minimal? Those 2 million meals were produced for 10 cents each. Is it because it's a 100% volunteer organization that works in a goodwill economy? Is it because the immaterial benefits are even greater than the considerable material benefits? Or is it because we are wild and crazy guys? In fact, all of that is true. And all of that is important. But the real driver of the growth is the will and goodwill of the citizen volunteer leaders in each community They decided to assume their power, right, and obligation to make the world a better place. Who will do so in your community? I want to add that every single volunteer is an absolutely indispensable part of this work. But it is true, at the same time, that every volunteer is not capable of leading a team and bringing it to fruition. We have a 97% success rate, and I place that squarely in the work done by the people who make that central decision and lead the teams. And I want to dedicate this talk to all of the volunteer leaders who have brought us this far. Now, according to my calculations, I still have a few seconds. So let's go back to that question about the 18th goal. What's missing? Can it be love and respect for all others? I'm going to suggest that this can be our 18th goal, and I'm going to suggest that all of us can make a contribution to that. We began with a quick activity. I'm going to ask you to do exactly the same thing. Just stand up, get your stuff on the chair. This will be very quick. But we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do in our local communities. I'm going to ask everybody to turn into this direction. Turn in this direction. Everybody. Step forward until you've got someone's back in front of you. Step forward until you've got someone's back in front of you. Okay, we're going to need our hands in the air. Hands up. We're going to prepare for the work. We have work to do. Put your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you with great respect and gently. And massage. There you go. Move on up. Massage your colleague. Now, it's only massage. It's only massage. And turn around 180 degrees and show your colleague how a massage should be done. Thank you so much for your patience and goodwill.